From MTN Sports, welcome to Grizzly Insider, sponsored by Albertsons Safeway.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's edition of the Griz Insider, the NCAA Tournament Edition. Alongside the voice of the Griz, Riley Corcoran, I'm Kyle Hansen. We're very excited to be joining you once again as the Grizzlies are going dancing. And Riley, what a lot of fun it was down in Boise, Idaho, and oddly enough, some time to decompress before we get ready for Denver and Wisconsin.
Kyle, it has been a perfect setup. Not only do you win the Big Sky Championship, have a great run to it, but I think the couple days to hit the reset button was something the Griz were not able to enjoy back in 2018 and 2019. And as we start to preview this matchup and kind of get into it a little bit more, that could be a big plus for Montana, that they're rested and refreshed. But you're right, I think all of us needed it with all the work that you did with Big Sky Courtside and your great team down in Boise. The Griz and the Lady Griz obviously going on a great run down there as well. It was a fun time for all that were down there in Boise.
A lot of fun, no doubt about it. And I remember that 2019 season, not getting much time. It was really jumping right into Selection Sunday. And as we look ahead now, so the Grizzlies, a 14 seed taking on 3-seeded Wisconsin. I mean, you looked at the matchup and it was like, wow, very exciting. But as you look at Montana's season as a whole, just what kind of stands out? I mean, they got it done, right? At the end of the day, they got it done. They were oh so close last year, but it was like the team finally broke through after that 6-year drought.
You know, Kyle, we've had a lot of conversations on air and off air about this team. And I think that what's so cool about this group is they had teaching and learning moments throughout the season, because this team had to come together very quickly. They didn't know how good they could be maybe until January or February. So we all saw the lessons that they learned. They were out in full display. Blowout to Northern Colorado, blowout to Idaho State. Since then, they've won 14 out of 15 games. And players and coaches will candidly tell you they needed to get punched in the mouth. They needed the wake-up call. So I really think for this team to persevere, overcome, and to really give Griz fans and everyone that's followed this team quite a wild ride to get back to the NCAA tournament. It's just so fitting, and great stories all the way throughout. We're going to have one of the great stories in Austin Patterson on the show here today as well. But you could go down the Grizzly roster, even down to an Adam Schaaf, who's your emotional leader on the bench. Everybody plays a role, and everybody feels, and they were, a part of this championship team.
It's a lot of fun, and it's a good thing you mentioned the losses, because those have been such a big part of it, right? And when they did happen, you were kind of wondering, because we'd seen it the last couple of years, right? A good team then loses a big game, and you kind of wonder, especially the home loss to Northern Colorado. It was at home, really exciting regular season game. But then you look even further past that, where you look at when they beat CSUN, when they beat South Dakota State, when they swept that road trip to start conference play at Eastern, at Idaho, typically a tough road trip for them. There were signs early on, right? And then watching them complete it. And we've talked about this a lot too, the 9 new faces. We just didn't know how they were going to gel, but watching them get it done has sure been a pleasure.
It has, and I think that roles were defined even in January and February of what each player needed to do to help their team win. And I just think that we saw many breakthroughs throughout the course of the season, and we saw Coach DeCure really enjoy this team because they epitomized the toughness that he wanted all the way through. And you said the word complete just a moment ago. It really was. It all came together, and they completed it. They were able to conquer their demons from the year prior, because I think it had creeped in everybody's head, right? They had a double-digit lead against Montana State. We know how that went. They had a double-digit lead against Northern Colorado. Bears made a push. They got it down to 1. But this team, 33 games, it all gets culminated into 1, to where they said, no, we are going to win the championship. They went and took it, and my goodness, they certainly deserved it.
Quite a run in Boise, too, because you beat NAU, a team you've also kind of struggled with the last few years, and then you beat Idaho, who's a rival, and you beat them pretty convincingly. And then, like you mentioned, how about that championship game? Both teams just couldn't miss. It was awesome.
I don't think we are going to have a championship game that had that high level of execution. And I normally won't say this. I kind of felt bad for Northern Colorado because they played so well and they were looking for their first title, and yet they're going to the NIT. But the Grizzlies went out and won that game. That's what you want. You don't want a team to maybe come out and not have their best performance. They both did. The Grizzlies went out and took it. And Kyle, again, epitomizes the season. They won 3 games in Boise in 3 different ways.
Yep, absolutely. We're excited to keep going here on the Griz Insider and get you prepped for the NCAA tournament after what's been a really fun year for the Montana Grizzlies. Coming up later in the show, as Riley mentioned, Austin Patterson will join us. But first, after the break, head coach Travis DeCure will join Riley to break down the season.
Welcome back to Grizzly Insider, sponsored by Albertsons Safeway.
What a ride it has been for Grizzly basketball this year, returning to the big dance, the NCAA tournament, coming up this week, early on Thursday against Wisconsin. Here to talk about the last week and this season in general, head coach Travis DeCuire. Coach, what's it been like the last week or so? First off, congratulations, and secondly, just take me through the last week before you found out who you played.
Yeah, I almost forgot how crazy it gets. It's been fun. You know, this group came together midway through conference, like no team I've ever had. So it's been a fun ride, and you know, finally we had a couple of days kind of basking a little bit and hit the reset button on Sunday.
Well, and that certainly was something different from the last time. You went to the NCAA tournament, of course, with getting a couple extra days, and that might be in your favor when taking on Wisconsin on Thursday morning. But, Coach, you go to the Big Sky Conference tournament, and you guys were obviously rolling going in, one of the co-favorites with Northern Colorado, but you seem to take it to a different gear down in Boise. From your eyes, how did your team elevate their play even more after a strong end to the regular season?
Well, that's a part of never looking back and one game at a time and finding ways to continue to get better. We knew we hadn't clicked on both sides of the ball yet, and there was no finer time than to do that in the championship game. But we were just looking forward to the night that our defense showed up, and then offensively we still, you know, made good decisions, got great shots, and made some shots. And fortunately for us, we had a great weekend.
Well, I just love how every single game kind of had its own story. Idaho, the defense was just phenomenal. And then I've got to ask you a question on the championship. That's a game that I don't think many of us will ever see again, where both teams executing so well, and a near perfect game from your team, shooting upwards of over 70% for a while, 14 straight makes, just storybook stuff. I mean, when you go back and think about the championship, hopefully you've watched it at least once or twice by now. What really stood out about your team just putting together a near perfect performance?
Well, Superman showed up from Northern Colorado. You know, really did a phenomenal job of making tough shot after tough shot and kept them in the game. Just as they made a run, the Wonder Twins showed up for us. So it was a fun game. You know, we exchanged some blows, coming out of timeouts, executing some things. It became an offensive battle. But the biggest thing for us was, you know, I felt like we needed to be the more physical team. We needed to be the tougher team when it came to 50-50 balls and things like that. And when we finally got some stops, we got all the rebounds.
It showed all the evolution from last year to this year in the second half. When Northern Colorado made their run, you guys said, not this time. Push back, got the win. Big Sky Conference champions. And now, Coach, how about the celebration? What was your favorite part of maybe the celebration after? I was there. Your team was waiting patiently to douse you with water. But between that and everything else, the couple days afterwards, what was your favorite part, maybe the celebration?
Really, this year, my favorite part was on the court. A lot of parents on the court. And parents that we had some very serious conversations with over the last 12 months, whether it was deciding to return for a fifth year, whether it was playing through injuries, not redshirting, just things that, you know, normal conversations you have, but really this year it was a tough one because we needed all hands on deck. So to have it pay off at the end and actually hang a banner makes everything worth it. And so I really enjoyed those conversations after the fact.
And before we talk about the Badgers and your matchup there, coaches, logistics this week, how crazy is it for you from the moment? I mean, take us kind of inside the curtain of, you guys have to get ready for a game on top of all this craziness with scouting. So what are the logistics like behind the scenes?
It's tough because you want to enjoy the experience. Some of these guys, it's the last opportunity to do it. Some of them, you're never guaranteed, you know, NCAA tournament trips. And I always tell the guys the best part is when you leave campus all the way up until the tip. And so you want to let them enjoy it, but at the same time, you got to find a way to roll your sleeves up. So it's a tough balance, but it's no different than the course of the year. There's trips you make, cities you travel to where there might be things you want to see and experience, but at the same time, we got to focus and remember there's a task at hand.
And you have a very mature group going down here that's been very focused here, winning 14 of their last 15. All right, let's talk about the Badgers. You watched them on TV right before the selection show. Number 3 seed, obviously the Big Ten, a daunting conference in general. You took on Oregon earlier this year, so you have a taste of that league, but what are your initial impressions when you were able to dive in on Wisconsin?
Balance. They've got one guy that can explode on you quite a bit, but they're a pretty balanced group in terms of their perimeter are all aggressive. They're all making plays. They all can play off the bounce. They can all shoot, but also they've got low post players that, you know, can shoot the ball or, you know, play with their back to the basket. So it's a balanced team. I mean, our defense is definitely going to have to show up, but we'll need to make some shots as well.
And we'll see. Early morning start, altitude, Grizzlies the fresher team, might be a good sign. Wisconsin, the #1 free throw shooting team in the country. The Grizzlies have been the best shooting team in the nation in the last 6 weeks. Coach DeCuire, it's been a fun ride. Thanks so much for being a part of it and leading the charge and joining us on the show here today.
Thanks for having me.
All right, we will talk with Austin Patterson when we come back on the Grizzlies side.
Welcome back to Grizzly Insider, sponsored by Albertson Safeway.
Welcome back to the Griz Insider, a celebratory edition as the Griz get ready to go to the NCAA tournament. They'll take on the Wisconsin Badgers on Thursday. We get to talk with one of the MVPs for the Grizzly basketball this year. It's Austin Patterson, one of the players that transferred in conference from Sacramento State, came here to win a Big Sky title, and my friend, you did just that. First off, what have the last couple days, week been to try and enjoy this before heading down to Denver?
It's been a dream come true, everything I ever wanted. Obviously, big ideas for this year, and look what happened. So that's what I came to do, and I'm super excited.
Well, that's exactly the case with you, and your story is pretty awesome when you think about growing up in California, and then you look at your career path of going to Wofford, all the way on the East Coast, and then back to Sacramento State, where you were a star and a double-digit scorer for Sacramento State, and you went in the portal. You had 1 year of eligibility left, and you mentioned the priorities for you, and I think it's just a great story in general. When you went to the portal about a year ago, what were you looking for, and how did Montana become that team and the place that you obviously had success with here your final year?
Obviously, I wanted to impact winning at a huge level, and I think I've done that. This is great culture. I was looking for a great culture, and that's what Montana is, the support from the community, the culture of the coaches, the culture of the team. It's what I was looking for, and we're going dancing now. So.
Yes, you are. Take me back maybe through the beginning of the season when you guys were coming together. 8 transfers, 9 newcomers. And you guys had a tough schedule on the road, too. I don't think maybe the potential of this team was realized, Austin, until January, maybe even February. From inside the locker room, tell me about the development of this team, of how you came together, and maybe when you guys got the confidence of, okay, we can go do this thing, and we're a collective group right now.
Yeah, there's ups and downs throughout the whole season. Like you said, eight new transfers. It takes a while for us to mold together. So I don't think we really realized that until after we got our butts kicked to Idaho State. I think that was kind of a slap in the face, saying, hey, we got to lock in. And I think after that was when we went on our win streak. And I think we realized how good we are and how successful we can be.
Winning 10 straight games, longest winning streak in 6 years, 14 of the last 15 for the Griz, headed into the NCAA tournament. And I think your role on the team is as important as it gets because of what you bring when you come onto the court, the emotional leadership, and not only that, the toughness on defense. When did you embrace your role this year, Austin? Because I thought it was only fitting in the semifinal that you were able to erupt for 20 because you had this team-first mindset all year long. When did you embrace it, and how much have you been able to enjoy this on the way to the NCAA tournament?
Yeah, I love my role. I think it's special. We got a lot of great guards on this team. A lot of great guards that can go for 20 a night. So it's I kind of embraced it around Christmas time, beginning of January. I said, I'm going to put my pride aside, and I'm just going to do team first. And I think that's benefited me. It's benefited the team, obviously, and I just couldn't be happier.
It epitomizes what this team is all about, and we're so happy for you. A season-high 20 points against Idaho, 5 made three-pointers, over 200 threes now in your career. I don't know if you know this, but you're pretty close to 1,000 career points now at 983. 30 points in the 3 Big Sky Conference tournament games, and this team camaraderie is something special. You and Kai Johnson, the Bash Brothers, I think that was coined by Jay Flores. But with that being said, just take us through what it's like with this team and how close you guys are, and obviously a lot of experienced older guys that have come together for one common goal. What's it like behind the scenes? How close are you guys?
Oh, we're extremely close. We're extremely close. There's a lot of banter between us, talking smack in the locker room, whatnot, talking smack on the court. I think that's what makes us really close, and I think a lot of us have put our pride aside, like I said, to achieve our common goal, and I think that's what makes us so close and makes us so successful.
Final question for you. You've been dreaming about it your whole life, and on Thursday you're going to wake up and you're going to play in the NCAA tournament against Wisconsin. What do you feel that you need to do to make sure you're playing at your best, and what do you think that moment's going to be like when you walk on the court for the first time in the Big Dance?
I'm definitely going to have butterflies. It's been my dream to play in the NCAA tournament, but no, I'm just going to go in there with ultimate confidence and just let it rip. We're the 14th seed. We got nothing to lose. So I'm just so excited. I can't wait.
Behind that mindset and this team, the Grizzlies certainly have a chance Thursday. Austin Patterson, great story all year. Thanks for coming to Missoula, and thanks for joining us on the Griz Insider.
Thank you so much.
All right, I'll come back with Kyle Hansen when we return.
Welcome back to Grizzly Insider, sponsored by Albertson Safeway.
Welcome back to the Griz Insider. Riley, great stuff there with head coach Travis Secure and Austin Patterson. What a story Austin Patterson has, as we've talked about with these other players as well. So now let's turn to the page to Thursday. It's going to be a lot of fun as it's Big Sky versus Big Ten once again. And just kind of 10,000-foot view, what do you know about the Badgers?
First off, it's surreal when you get to this point, right? And no disrespect to any Big Sky school, but when you're preparing for the teams that you're used to for the last couple months and the usual suspects year by year, you get a Wisconsin that comes around. In the NCAA tournament, it kind of lights up the page, right? And it has been surreal to look at a team that you've watched all year long on TV. And, oh, by the way, they were the team that was on right before the selection show, too. So just looking at this Wisconsin team, they're a different Badger team than before. They have been in the top 20 all year long. And normally when you think of Wisconsin, you think of fundamentals and you think of a really solid defensive team. This year, they have lit up the scoreboard offensively, and they're one of the best offensive efficiency teams in the entire country, which could lead to a bit of a shootout, I think, on Thursday morning, Kyle, when looking at Montana and Wisconsin. They've got a dynamic duo. John Tanji leads the way with nearly 20 points per game. The Griz are going to have a tough assignment trying to keep him down. Now, they have Brandon Whitney. Can Brandon Whitney's success on the defensive end translate to the big stage? We're about to find out. But Wisconsin, a very guard-oriented team, #1 in the nation in free throw percentage. Griz are going to have to stay out of foul trouble, but very good team on paper. They all are at this point, but all things considered, Montana can go in here with a puncher's chance.
I agree, and that puncher's chance, you look at just kind of the setup, right? Because we've talked about it off camera, really in the lead up. You just, those seedings, you never really know. Especially, it was kind of funny watching that South region get made. It was 15 and 14, and everybody was kind of holding their breath, wondering if the Grizzlies were going to be in that section. Just talk about, I guess, the setup, right? Because you look at it, it's pretty unique compared to others.
It's very unique, and I think when you go on paper, not trying to will this into existence, but I'm okay with that too, is you can't ask for a better logistical setup for Montana. They played last Wednesday. They've had longer time to rest. Wisconsin just got done playing a grueling 4 games in 4 days at the Big Ten tournament. They didn't get back to Madison until late Sunday night. They're going to have to turn around on Tuesday morning to head down to Denver to, oh, by the way, play at altitude. And the game's at 11:30 in the morning. So first game of the day, it's just all the logistics you think that could favor Montana coming in. And quite frankly, Kyle, to end a long losing streak, the last time the Big Sky Conference got a win in the tournament was the Grizzlies. They've lost 18 straight. So I think for this to happen, the stars have to align in some way. And on paper, and we could be sitting here and it could be a rout, and it was in 2012 when they played. On paper, it's about the best setup you could ask for Montana going into an NCAA tournament.
And the way the team's playing as well, because you look at that Big Ten championship loss, you don't know how that's going to affect the team. Grizzlies, as you've mentioned, are 14 and 15, and then coming off a huge 91-point outing against Northern Colorado in hot shooting. And you look at Denver and Seattle. Not just U of M alums, but just Montanans in general tend to gravitate towards both cities, whether it be jobs, career opportunities, people coming from those places to move to Montana. You got to love it, especially from a crowd perspective. It could be a great one.
I think so, and especially compared to the last 2 tournament runs where the Griz went to Wichita and Des Moines. Didn't really feel that Griz contingent. Now they went to San Jose in the Tinkle era and whatnot, and that is when fans were able to come. I think there will be a great Grizzly fan base, and one more factor in it, Wisconsin's been dealing with the Big Ten all the way through their season. And they're looking maybe at the big team. Are they looking ahead at Montana? We'll see. They play the winner of BYU, VCU. Maybe they're already looking at that. So another thing that comes into play, but I think the Griz have all the intangibles, the winning streak, and they're going to have a good fan base behind them.
Oh, we can't wait. Thursday is going to be a lot of fun in Denver, Montana versus Wisconsin in the NCAA tournament. We'll wrap things up here on the Griz Insider after this.
Welcome back to Grizzly Insider, sponsored by Albertson Safeway.
Well, as we're about to wrap things up here on the Griz Insider, we're very excited for the NCAA tournament because this is what March is all about. We're excited to be immersed in it with the legends of March. Riley, this will be your 3rd NCAA tournament working at. This will be my 3rd as well. To speak to your excitement about getting back to the big dance.
There's nothing like it, Kyle, and I think the 6-year gap has made all of us maybe appreciate it a little bit more. It certainly is for me. It was early on in my tenure when the Griz had that back-to-back run where they won 52 games, the most in a 2-year span. Now, this year's squad and last year's 49 wins, not too shabby, but there's nothing like going to the NCAA tournament, being on the biggest stage, and just seeing what this sport has to offer. Because I think in the entire landscape of sports in the United States, think this tournament might be the best. Through 3 weeks of it, it engulfs the entire country. Everyone will see that Griz mascot all the way through, and who knows, maybe Montana can be that team that can bust some brackets as well.
They're always looking for it, no doubt about it. Well, Riley, enjoy the tournament. Have a great call. Look forward to catching up with you down in Denver, and thank you all so much for joining us here on the Griz Insider, and have a great night.